All right. Welcome everyone to this Chill with Jim episode. I'd like to thank you for all joining us. And my name is Jim. I am your host for the day on Chill with Jim. It is always business up top and pajamas on the bottom. So my job at Strix, Louisiana, I am the client advocate. And what that means to me is that I'm constantly evaluating our clients to make sure they have the best equipment, software, and IT solutions in place. We also have David DeArmond, who is the owner of Strix Louisiana, with us.
Hey there, everybody. I'm David DeArmond, owner of Strix LA, and sometimes I feel like I just run around like a chicken with my head cut off. We're always looking for the next solution to fix the things that are breaking in the cyber world, whether it's some sort of software failure or some sort of Russian or other person trying to attack your business systems. So anyway, David DeArmond, Strix LA.
All right, and just a little bit about Strix, I'd like to tell everyone. So we have a philosophy here. We believe there's always a better, simpler, more secure way of doing just about everything we do. So what this means is we're constantly evaluating, searching for the best way, and adapting our processes to make sure that we have the best solutions in place. And some of this responsibility, we believe, is to help educate our clients as well as others out there on the best way to use their current resources. We'll talk about security risks that are happening and just overall trends to bring awareness to some of the things that are going on in the IT world today. We have quite an exciting Chill with Jim episode today because we have a special guest. The special guest is Will Du with One Match Marketing, and he is a story brand marketing specialist. So if you guys think about, just throughout history, stories have been a big part of the human evolution. They played a lot in our history. Today we'll be talking about some stories. We'll be talking about heroes. That's why in support of the heroes, Will and I have our hero capes on.
Y'all are looking good too. Looking good.
Thank you. Thank you. It just to help support all of the heroes out there. And actually, if you don't believe just because of the cape that I'm a hero, I can reveal my secret identity as well.
Jim, don't do it. Oh gosh.
You see, now I'm into my superhero role now. And
wow.
Then there's Jim McCarthy.
I hope you didn't put your whole family at risk by outing yourself. That's a very Iron Man move there.
Yeah, well,
so courageous.
I will do anything for this company, David. Anything. So actually, before we go ahead and let Will introduce himself, I'd like to let a couple of the members who are joining us on our Zoom meeting to introduce themselves. Ramona, if you don't mind unmuting yourself and introducing yourself, that would be great.
Hey, I'm Ramona Tozan. I have Red Carpet Destinations, and I am a travel advisor, and just wanting to learn a little bit more about how to do the story branding instead of just saying, I'm a travel advisor.
Welcome, Ramona. We also have Carlene with us. Carlene, if you don't mind introducing yourself as well.
Sure, absolutely. My name is Carlene. I am with Dugan's Travels. I also am a travel advisor, and the name of my business is Carlene's Caribbean Travel. I've been doing it for 17 years, and I am always wanting to learn new things. So I love these calls that they do for us, you guys do for us.
Yeah, Will, you have a great opportunity here to really hone in your message, because we have two travel advisors here today. So if you can hone in your message at all for these guys, I'm sure they would appreciate it. Tough industry right now.
Yes, yes. And we have, looks like about 2,500,000 people joining us on Facebook Live right now. So
yeah, if you guys could keep your introductions to about a minute, That would be best.
We won't let all of them, because it would just take too much time. We won't
Oh,
let all of them introduce themselves, and they can't come on the mic either. So,
you need to register. You need to register.
so full of jokes today. Will, we're gonna go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, and just a general info or intro to who Will Do is.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on the show. I love hanging out with you guys, whether it's in person or here. So I'm sure we're gonna have a good time. But I guess just to start off, this whole marketing sphere kind of gets a bad rap often, right? People kind of think of marketing people as sleazy or, the snake oil salesman or the used car dealership guy. No offense to any of you Facebook Live listeners, but you should have registered, so I wouldn't have insulted you. But it gets a bad rap, but honestly, it's all about communication, right? We need to learn how to be better communicators, not just for our business, but for life, right? In our families, in our communities, we see the problem of poor communication all around us every day. So if we can learn how to be good communicators and communicate clearly, communicate well, then that's going to grow our business. That's going to help us out in life, right? So that's actually the whole reason that I got into this whole marketing sphere. My business isn't very old. I've only been by myself, launched this business maybe like a year and a half, 2 years ago. But for years, I've been freelancing. And before I was working with small businesses, I worked with nonprofits. And so often, whether it was with nonprofits or small businesses, I saw people that had great products. They had great hearts. They were providing helpful needs in the community, but they just couldn't get to the next step. They were always held back by a lack of resources, a lack of finances, a lack of customers, a lack of volunteers, whatever it would be. And it all comes down to communication, really. So that's how I kind of got into this role. That's how I went back to school, got my degree in communication and in business. And then I ended up getting a story brand marketing certification as well a couple of years ago because it's so well aligned with what I was leading other people through. So really, it's more than making a lot of money for myself or, helping you guys make money, but it's really is communicating clearly and helping you figure out how to do that in a way that other people can understand, other people can remember, and then other people will remember you next time they have that problem that you solve.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I enjoyed hearing about how you got into this, and got a lot of credentials behind that as well. So we appreciate you coming on and being our knowledge base for today. What we did is we kind of we went out to some of our clients. We asked other people's around our industry, some good questions that we're going to start off with about 30 minutes of some questions we've gotten in from other people that we've asked that we're going to ask Will to kind of go through. And then we're going to open it up to 15 or 20 minutes of audience participation where everyone else can ask more directly their questions to you. And so that's a little bit about the format, and we're just going to go ahead and kick it right off. Will, in your opinion, why is it so important to write a good story? And then once you have this story, why is it so important to market it well?
That's a great question. I think more importantly than my opinion, right? Because I think, like you said, I've got a background, I've got credentials, but more importantly than my opinion, there's the reality of the power of story, right? And like you mentioned, we can see it throughout history. For thousands of years or however long we've been around, right? That's the primary way that we've passed on information is through stories, sitting around the campfire, walking from one place to another. That's how history was transmitted. That's how knowledge is transmitted, how culture gets passed on, right? It's our brains are geared to kind of make sense of things through story. And if any of you guys even would be willing to be honest with yourself, that's probably what we all kind of revert to, right? Even if somebody is talking in the front like a teacher, or the TV show that you're watching is getting kind of boring, what are you going to do? You're going to start daydreaming, right? Because our brains are geared to like, we like story, we like processing story, we like fitting things into story. And so whether it's your marketing story or whether it's a Hollywood blockbuster, like we need to have these elements of story in place to help people make sense of what's going on, to help people really understand what we're offering, and then understanding what does this mean for me, right? So so I think that's most importantly is, I mean, you can look at tons of scientific studies that prove the power of story in some aspect or another, but it's just really the way that our brains work. And so if you can write a clear story, right? Most importantly, clear, but if also you can write a compelling story that helps people like, ooh, I want to be a part of that, then you're going to be miles ahead of your competition who's just simply putting out information, right? Because that's the difference between at the end of the day, after a hard day of work, you don't go and pick up a textbook or a dictionary. I mean, most normal people wouldn't. Or they probably, you know, grab their favorite book or turn on the TV because that's a story, right? That's an escape. That's something other. It's not just cramming information into our heads. But if you, honestly, if you look at most websites today, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say most. I don't know if there's a percentage or whatever, but a lot of websites today, you go to them, it's going to hit you with information. Most advertisements, information. And if you're like me, which all of you are connected to internet and to just driving down the road, we're bombarded with information all the time. So if you don't have a clear story that makes you stand out, if you don't have a compelling story that people want to be a part of, well, they're probably going to find that story someplace else. So that's the primary reason why your business needs to have a clear story and a compelling story.
Awesome. What are some of the avenues that a good story can open up for your business? So if you get that into place, what are some of the benefits you can see?
Yeah, well, I think most importantly, or most clearly you can see specifically for like a website, like I mentioned already, like you can go to tons of different websites and it's just, you don't even know what's going on. Like there's a billion things up in the header. The main image is shifting quicker than you can read it. They've got like all these buttons and all these things, and it lacks any kind of cohesion, right? There's no clear storyline, but the good ones, right, are simple. The good ones are straightforward. The good ones, you know what you're going to get. And really, this is the difference between why Yahoo isn't as popular as Google. You know, Google is straightforward. You know exactly what you're going to get. Yahoo's got like 1,000,002 stories and, you know, however many stories about Kim Kardashian and all the other really important things out there. But you don't, like, you get bombarded with all this information. I just want to search for something, right? So I'm going to go to Google, and that's why looking for information on the internet is now synonymous with Googling it, right? So they've marked that territory. That's what they're all about. The same thing with you guys, maybe as travel agents or whatever industry. If you can really appeal to a specific demographic, if you can really appeal to a specific audience, and you can tailor that story to them, well, guess what? They're gonna remember you, right? Two, it's gonna make sense in their brain because you've got all these elements that like, oh, that's how it works. Oh, that's how they're helping me. Oh, this is the success that I can see. And they can like fit this thing into a story. And guess what? They're going to remember you. And also they're going to probably share you with other people because it makes sense to them. So I think that's a huge reason. That's specifically for your websites, but I think that's all of marketing, right? Because we can see whether it's billboards or websites or ads in a magazine or a paper or whatever. If it's just information, it's so easy to gloss over. People businesses waste millions each year on marketing simply because it's just information, right? Or it's something that doesn't even make sense. I don't know I mean, you could probably think of in like different examples on as you drive down the road, like billboards and stuff. But I really like pointing out this one because it's so crazy. It's last year in the NFL, they had some ads at the end of the end zone, and it said "crucial catch." Now, I don't know if any of you guys seen it. I don't know if it was at the Superdome or not, but they had a crucial catch like on the edge of the touchdown area, the end zone. It's a crucial catch. Nobody even knows what that means. Nobody knows, is that like a play on words? Is that for the NFL? What is that for? Turns out it's for breast cancer awareness. But guess what? Those guys probably lost tons of money. I bet they didn't see a return on their investment with these, how much an end zone costs, but it's just unclear marketing. Whether it's a billboard or an end zone or a website, you're going to waste tons of money if you can't tie it into a story that really grabs people's attention.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I was the only one like, crucial catch. What is this? What does it mean? I'm glad I'm glad not everybody else was like, oh yeah, we get that. No,
I've asked that on like several webinars, and some people have actually seen it, and absolutely no one knows what it means.
Wow. Whew. Expensive, unclear
Cheers.
Marketing. All right, we'll go into some of the writing your story aspects of what you do. Now, do you feel like there's a difference between marketing your story and then branding your company?
Well, I think when you get down to like semantics like that, well, I think marketing and advertising usually is promoting a product or a service, right? And then branding is more, it's kind of like public relations on the nonprofit side. It's what's the image that we're presenting to our clients or to the public, right? So I think if we're marketing our story, or we're specifically, we're branding ourselves, that's really, we need to have that clear story of like, who is Strix? What's Strix all about, right? My travel agency, who is my travel agency? Who am I? What are the values that I adhere to? What are the ways that I'm maybe building the community, right? People are looking a lot for social act, like, what's it called? Being like social responsibility and stuff. So what do we do for that? Like, and if we can figure out these ways that we can connect with people, then they're going to be much more likely to connect with us, not only to connect with us and do business with us, but then continue that relationship. And I don't know if you've ever read this book. It's called Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer, but it really talks about, it's a great book, and it basically talks about how marketing has changed because of the internet, because of now the consumer is much more involved in the selling process, right? We got reviews, we've got people that can like just get on social media and totally destroy a company, right? Especially if they have a following. So it's really important for us to establish, this is branding, right? Or marketing our story. We need to establish who we are. And once we establish who we are, and we can like, and then our followers see that we're being like true to that, and that's like values that they hold as well, well, then they're going to become our marketers, right? They're going to become our advocates to their friends. And we all know that that's the best form of marketing, is word of mouth. So if we can get brand advocates that we're not even paying, right, to share us with other people, I'm sure we all have those friends, right? That, oh, I just had this Himalayan salt lamp, and I'm sorry if you like the Himalayan salt lamp or whatever. Or, I mean, essential oils is a big one, right? People are like, oh, you got to try this. Or maybe it's a new restaurant, like, oh my gosh, you got to try this place. And like, they're your marketing team. So if you can like really do a good job of being authentic, if you can do a really good job in your customer relations, if you can do like that customer experience is like top notch, like as travel agents, if you guys go above and beyond, like think about the times that people have talked about you to their friends, or maybe shared you, hopefully shared you on one of their social posts. Like if you did something remarkable for them and you continue to do remarkable things, and that's part of who your brand is, then other people are going to become your advocates, right? So I think it's more than just marketing our product or our service, which gets tiresome after a while. And I think of kind of, again, I'm not trying to point fingers at people, but sometimes network marketers can be guilty of this, of always just pumping products. And after a while, you're just like, I'm not interested anymore. But if you can like really just say like, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I'm a part of, seeing how I'm making the world a better place, then people are much more apt to be like, oh, I'm all about this, you know. And we can even see it, some luxury brands or these social activist brands, like they charge a premium and people will pay it because they're all about that as well.
Awesome, great answer. So like if I'm a company on here, you know, and I'm really looking to write my company's story successfully, what are some of the key aspects to doing this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, honestly, I think a lot of people get this one wrong. Because maybe, and even for me personally, when I first started out, I was like, oh yeah, story is important, right? Story is how we communicate and all that stuff. And it is, but there's these elements of story. And this is what I think that Story Brand has really added to my offering for my clients. And this is another great book. I'll just plug it real quick. Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. It's a terrific book, and it helps you. It'll go into more detail of what I'm going to be sharing here in a second. But there's these elements of story that we need to have these things in place so it makes sense to people. And so often we maybe have bits of it, but people can't really put the whole story together. And so I don't know about you, but if I had a piece of a story and I wasn't really all that interested in the story anyway, I'm not remembering that, right? So I think first and foremost, we need to identify our character. Like, who is the story about? And I think a lot of businesses get this wrong, and you can see it on websites, you can see it all throughout marketing, on billboards. But guess what? This is a game changer. It was for me. In your story, you're not the hero. Your business is not the hero in the story that you write. Even though I got a cape on, I don't want to be the hero today. I actually want to position myself as the guide in the story. And you think about this, and it's very intuitive once I explain it. Like, if you think about back when hopefully your parents read to you when you were a kid, or maybe you saw that on movies of the grandpa, you know, taking his grandson or granddaughter in his arms and telling him a story. What's the story about? They're always like all in when the story's about them, right? I mean, my dad never did this for me. Like, he read to me, but he never made me the hero of a story. But like, if my dad would like tell me the story about like how I was a knight in shining armor and how I slayed the dragon, I'd be like, Dad, tell me that story every night, right? So if we tell stories like that like, hey, this is your story. Like, and we see this in great ads. It became really popular, like when Slim Fast was a big thing, right? We see the before and the after, right? We see a story right there. Like, before, the guys, they're sad, depressed, and it's all like washed out, right? And hate life, I'm depressed, I'm overweight, all this stuff. And then the after picture, he's like in shape, like and he's smiling real big, his teeth are whitened for some reason. And like obviously like flexing a little bit, right? When the other time he was like making sure that nothing was flexing. So anyway, it just shows the before and after, right? So we want to think about what are our characters aspiring to. This is a key right here. So not only are you not you're not the hero, but you're writing a story as if your customer or your client was the hero. And what are they aspiring to? And if you're a travel agent, what are people looking for? Are they looking for a break? Is that me? Shoot.
Well, you said break, so you probably just needed a break there. So well timed.
Whoops. everybody silence your cell phones, please. So we have to figure out like what are our clients aspiring to, right? And if we can write a story where they can visualize the after state. Oh, I was saying as travel agents, like what are people looking for? Are they looking for time with their family? Are they looking for an escape from, I mean, right now it's like escape from the heaviness, right? From the constant bombardment of the reality of what the world unfortunately has become in the last couple of months. But what are those things that people are like, they're feeling those, I mean, some people call them pain points, right? Or the problems, those internal problems that people are having. What are they aspiring to? And if we can encapsulate that in a post, a social post, if we can encapsulate that on our website, then people are going to start like, they're going to be like, oh, I want to be a part of this story, right? Or they're going to see, oh, this is my story, right? So you establish one, who the character is, and then you have to figure out like, what are their problems? And I kind of alluded to that already, like that's the before. But a lot of times people have external problems, but they're not going to move on the external problems. They're going to move on how that makes them feel, right? So we have to really tap into internally, what are people feeling? And then if you can write a statement or in your marketing have this kind of like philosophical problem that like, you know, good should triumph over evil. You deserve a break. Actually, this is a buddy of mine who has a coffee company. He says, great days begin here. Like you can like picture that, right? On your coffee mug, great days begin with like a great cup of coffee, right? Or tea or whatever you want to drink. But anyway, like we have to like come up with, if we can think of this statement that people are like, yeah, I agree with that. Then they're like, oh, I'm in, right? They've already bought in. And so there's a character, they have a problem, but guess what? They meet the guide, right? They meet you, the travel agent. They meet you, the IT guy that's going to help them get to that after state, right? And so we come as the guide and we present ourselves. And this is, I mean, you see this all over the place in movies. It's the Yoda, you know, it's the, I mean, pick any movie right now. My kids just went through the Star Wars 9 movies plus, and that's like all they talk about right now. But so Yoda is definitely on my brain. But you think of like any great movie, any great book, there's always the guide that comes in and it's like, hey, the hero has this quest, right, to get to. I'm going to help you. And you present like, hey, your empathy, like I understand what you're feeling. And also my authority, hey, I know how to get to where you want to go. And so I'm going to show you how to get there. So then you present yourself as the guide, and then you need to present this like, basically give people a plan, right? They need to get from point A to point B, but it can be a little intimidating. And I'm thinking of travel agents, right? If I think of going to a travel agent, most of the time I'm going to think of, oh, well, it's going to cost me extra money, right? Or why would I pay? I don't want to go through the hassle of it, but I don't want to pay somebody extra to go through the hassle. And I don't even know how much extra I'm going to have to pay for this person to plan my trip. Or whatever the problems you think, like those little snagging points that people think that most of the time are untrue. If you can create like this, hey, really clear plan to get from point A to point B, hey, all you have to do is start off by giving me a call. And then we'll do this and I'll come up with great options for you. And then you get to pick which would be your grand escape or whatever it's going to be, right? Whatever that storyline is, you get them from point A to point B, and don't give them like 800 steps, right? We had this photographer that worked with the Parks and Rec department here. And they had like on their website, they're like, oh, click here to find out how to get your pictures. And it was like in the teens steps of how to do it. And like, I got to step 4 and I was like, yeah, my kids don't need pictures that bad. Out, you know, like I'm not going to do it. So just give people like 3 steps, maybe 4, because they think of like phone numbers, even though nobody remembers phone numbers anymore. But we like usually group things, like the brain groups things in 3s and 4s. So think of like 3 easy steps that can get people from point A to point B. Like the stones across a creek, right? So they don't have to feel that anxiety of like, how am I going to get there? So you got the character who has a problem. They meet the guide who's going to help them and shows them like the map, the plan, right? And then they got to call somebody to action. And this is another place that tons of websites fail. Even like really authoritative, like leadership training, sales training people. I actually was helping a guy. I audited his website. He didn't call me back. Maybe he's watching right now, but he didn't call me back. But he had like just articles, and you could do this, and you could audit a class, and you could give him a call, and there was like way too much to do. Hey, if you're going to give me way too many things to do, I'm probably not going to do anything. Right. Mm-hmm. So give me like a clear path of like, what's that first step that I need to do to engage with you? What's that first step that I need to do to start the process? That doesn't mean I'm going to get to the end, but at least you're showing me that clear, this is the first initial step. Schedule a call, do it today, buy now, right? Like whatever that is, like make it clear, make it direct, or people aren't going to do it. And it's the same thing of like, you would hide like if you had a retail store, you wouldn't hide your register somewhere, right? You wouldn't hide it, on the second story behind the sports goods section. You'd put it up front by the door so people know exactly where it is. And when they want to buy something, they're not going to be like, well, how do I do this? So you give them a clear call to action. And then you all throughout your marketing, you got to be like very clear of like, this is success. This is success. This is success. We know that you want it. You want this. We know that you want to be in shape. We know that you want to have confidence. We know that you want to relax. You've had a hard time. You want to break, whatever it is, success, right? Spend more time with your family, whatever it is. We got to have all those successes so people can start visualizing like, oh, wow, that's what I want, right? That's exactly what I need. And then don't be afraid, especially on your website or like some kind of promotional material, don't be afraid to put in the failures too, right? And that's not, don't be heavy handed, but guess what? If there's no stakes in the story, it's going to be a boring story. If there's no reason to not choose you, well, then maybe I won't, right? So if you can like set it real clearly, hey, you can have this, this, and this, or you can keep on, being stuck in the drudgery of the mundane, or you can keep on, if you don't want to make this step, that's fine. But whatever, you don't want to be heavy handed. You don't want to be like over the top and like doom and gloom, but there are stakes to not choosing you, right? You can, for travel agents, maybe people just get really frustrated with all the different travel sites that they're trying to, get the cheapest, perfect vacation. And it's like, oh, they're frustrated. And you can have arguments with your spouse. You can, end up not even wanting to go on the trip before you go, or you can, click here and schedule a call and I'll help you through that. And I'm sorry, that's like super rough, but you know what I'm getting at. So actually, and this isn't a specific plug for me, you can actually go online and I think it's mystorybrand.com. If you wanted to read the book, or there's lots of helpful tools online, but they actually walk you through something called a brand script. And it puts all these different elements of story, the character, the problem, the guide, the plan, the call to action, the success, the failures. It puts all this stuff so you can see it like, okay, this is what I'm kind of building off of. This is the framework of all my marketing. And when you have that clear, cohesive, compelling story on your website, on your ads, in your social, like you keep on going back to those different elements, the story's going to stick, right? And there's different studies done, but basically, I think a common number is people say like they need like 7 touch points with a company before they're like, all right, I'm going to do it. So if we can keep on hammering that same story, if we can keep on saying, these are the successes, hey, you can do that. And maybe you could, I'm sorry if you want to, stay at this place, but hey, I would love to help you get here, and you keep on hitting those different pieces of the story, then people are going to remember you. People are going to they're going to associate you with that problem that you solve. And then when that problem comes up, or they're really feeling that pain point, then they'll be like, all right, I'm giving her a call. You know, I'm giving those guys a call because that's exactly like, I know that story. It's in my mind. And I know these guys can help me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, the next question I had was, is there any proven formulas? And you just went over through the whole formula. No, it's great. So
Jump the
like,
gun.
no, it's perfect. Well, the questions were similar, but like you laid it out great. I love the visuals you're using, and David's actually putting all those in the chat that you're talking
Oh,
about,
awesome.
the different books and the website. To switch up a little bit. So when you're talking about crafting a clear message, how do I create a successful one-liner or elevator pitch for me or my company?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think maybe some of you guys are involved in like a BNI or some kind of networking thing. Or even if you're just at a cocktail party, right? Which I don't think I've ever been invited to a cocktail party. You guys can invite me to a cocktail party. That'd be great. Just kidding. I got kids, so I think I'm not yet. My kids aren't old enough for me to go to cocktail parties yet. But anyway, sorry. Side note. That's one of my pain points. Whenever you're talking about your business, okay, this is classic, right? And we can all picture, and hopefully you don't fall in one of these camps, but we all do at some point. So there's like three places that we can believe. The two main ones though are the extremes. One is says like, when somebody asks, so what do you do? You're like, oh, I'm a travel agent. What else? So you can be like, you can oversimplify, right? You can oversimplify what you do and not really give anybody any reason to continue that conversation. Or you can go to the other extreme and it's like, oh, well, I'm a travel agent and I help it. And did you hear about this deal? And then I've helped people with this. And oh, I just helped this lady over here. And then for the next 5 minutes, you're overwhelming somebody to the point that they're like glazed over and they're just looking for some kind of excuse to like leave the conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So what I would recommend, and this is what StoryBrand recommends to do, is it's actually a very simple formula. So we don't get stuck in the either, well, I'm this, or it's, I hate when people say this, oh, it's really complicated, just come talk to me later. Like, it's a cop-out, right? Like you haven't taken the time to really present it in a way that people can understand quickly. So that's to say like, oh, it's just too complicated. That's a cop-out. Anyway, so don't oversimplify or don't like blow somebody's mind, give them way too much stuff. If you got it right in the sweet spot and this is what I would recommend if you want to write this down, you got to present the problem. And this doesn't have to be with everything, but this is a great formula and it's a great way to start. Present the problem, how you solve that, and the success that people can get with you. And so within 2 sentences or 3 sentences, you can quickly and cohesively tell somebody, right, the problem that you solve, the who you're helping and how you help them, right? And I'm sorry, when you share the problem that you solve, you say who you're helping, right? And so even if that person doesn't have the problem, then I'm like, oh, I just talked to my uncle. He's looking for somebody like that. Or I just had a conversation with my friend. They're looking for, you do cruise vacations? That's what you mostly do? Oh, that's great. So it connects you with like a specific problem and then how you solve that problem, right? So your competitive advantage, right? And then the success, so people can start visualizing, oh, that's how they could help me if I needed them to. So I've gone through this exercise a few times, but for me specifically, I just want to give you kind of an example. I used to tell people, well, like I'm in digital marketing. I know people have a lot of different needs and nobody's like the same. So I don't want to put anybody in like a cookie cutter thing, but I can do websites and I can help people with their emails. I can help people with their social media. I can do videos. And I'd start like going down the list till people are like, oh, that's neat. And like no business came from it, right? So now when I talk to people, I'm like, man, a lot of businesses struggle with their marketing because there's so many tools and tricks out there. and nobody, like people get overwhelmed easily. Sorry, I'm messing up my own one-liner. Business owners often get overwhelmed by all the marketing tools and tricks out there. And the fact of the matter is that none of them will be effective if you don't have a clear story. So that's why one match marketing helps you find the right words and set a clear path so you can make more money, or so you can grow your bottom line, right? Or I got to figure out who I'm talking to. So I got to figure out, like, what are they looking for, right? Are they looking for more money? Are they looking for more followers? Maybe they're a nonprofit. They just want to get the word out more. So they want to engage more people. So I have a little bit of room to play of, like, saying, because a clear story is going to help you do all of those things, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to, as you're engaging people, instead of being like the robot that, says exactly the same thing every time, you can kind of like tailor it to the needs of who you're talking to. Like if you're a travel agent, like if you're talking to a single guy, or you're talking to a married man that's got young kids, or you have you're talking to a dad that's got, college or high school, college age kids, like you got to tailor it differently because they have different needs, right? So figure out, like, and then, but too, like maybe you do best on like Disneyland vacations, right? So you could help these other people, but like you really want to hammer home, like, this is what I do well. This is where I get the great deals. You don't have to worry about this stuff over here. Like hammer home what you do well and keep on doing it really well. So then people start talking about you and start spreading that. And just a side note, I think a lot of people don't really have that cohesive one-liner because they want to appeal to so many people. They're like, oh, well, if I just focus here, then I can help these people here too. And nobody will know that. But that's like, you got to figure out what you do really well and then make your name for yourself there. And then from there you can grow. But like, you got to really hammer it home, that main storyline. What's that main thing that you really do well? What's that main like destination that people are like, yeah, and they're talking about, right? And then from there, people ask, if you have that, if you nail that one-liner, they'll be like, wow, that's really interesting. Tell me more, and you can kind of gauge where to take that conversation, where it's not you overwhelming them or you not giving enough information, and both ways they're checking out.
Nice. Great suggestions. And actually, like what we can do now, we've hit a lot of great topics. So I'd like to open up questions for the audience out there. If you ladies or anybody on the Facebook has any good questions, now is a great time to go ahead and ask Will directly. Checking the Facebook here.
Will, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm wondering about social media. You don't necessarily have room to tell an entire story. Yeah. How do you handle social media with a story?
That's a great question. I think the two things that are really important on social media is, and I'm not sure I think travel agents are probably the same, but I know I had a photographer friend who I helped her with her marketing. I don't know if any of you guys know Amy Kay. I go to church with her, Amy Kanichka. She's a photographer here in Denham Springs. But I helped her with her marketing a little bit about 1.5 years ago. And on her different social platforms, she had different about sections. She kind of focused a little bit differently. And then there's these, I'm not sure if it's the same with travel agents, but there's a lot of different photographer sites, right? Like these kind of aggregate hubs that you can have a bio on, connections to other sites, etc. She even had a different logo on a couple of them, like an older logo, and again, said something different. So when the bio section or like kind of the main tagline that you keep on hammering home, like you have to make sure that it's called brand cohesion, right? So when people go from one site to the next, they don't think that they're going to a different site. The look's the same, it sounds the same. You don't have really formal language here and really informal here. Like it's cohesive. And so then that helps people remember you better. But the thing about social media, obviously you don't want to put this brand script or this brand story on every post. That would be silly. But how some people kind of have explained it is you figure out, like, you can kind of see these different elements as almost like buckets that you can take content out of, right? And so maybe, excuse me, maybe for one post, you're focusing more on like, it's got the picture of the frustrated guy, you know, it's like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing, right? I'm frustrated at work. I'm at the end of myself, whatever, the frustrated business guy. And like, you can have like some line of like, you know, frustrated, need a break, you know, and that's the guy at work that needs a break. And so then you can kind of tag in that and kind of go into your story a little bit in the post of like how you can give that guy success. Or you see the guy or the woman, either way, right? 21st century, that's overwhelmed with their kids and the housework and whatever. It's like, what am I going to do? Like, need a break. Like, so that's the problem thing, right? That's the problem aspect of your story. The similar thing with like, you can hammer home those successes, specifically those success stories. Like if you can post up specifically your travel agents, if you guys get great testimonials, even if somebody's willing to like shoot a little video, or at least have you let them put up a vacation picture that they took on a vacation that you planned, like that's showing the after. That's showing that aspirational identity, you know, like, hey, this is so-and-so. And then you just write like, you know, a couple paragraphs about how you help them and how they are experiencing this great thing. And again, you're not presenting yourself as the hero, right? And you're not just hammering hey, this special and this product and this is what's going on, and like, buy this, buy this, buy this. And I'm not saying never do that, but if that's the majority of your posts, people aren't going to follow you anymore, right? So you gotta keep on telling the story. You gotta keep on telling how you're, even if there's things that you're connected with, that like maybe you know, volunteer somewhere or you serve at your church, and that's kind of like, it goes hand in hand with your core values as a company, stuff like that. Like, that's okay to put that stuff in there because that's your story, right? And that's your brand, and that's what you want people to connect with. And so I think it really is important to make sure to get back focused on, like, each post that you post, it shouldn't just be information. It shouldn't just be a product. Like, it really needs to tie into your main story. So even your social media is a part of that, and not just kind of like sporadic information that has no point or no purpose, really. Like, because I mean, you see it a lot, like somebody will just post up this funny thing, and then this political thing, and then this whatever thing over here, and then a product, and it's like,
where's the cohesion?
Yeah, I'm not looking for, that's not helping me at all, you know?
Right. Yeah. Ramona, it looked like you had something.
I do. One of the things you had mentioned in the beginning, you were talking about fees and things, because now with travel kind of up in the air as to what we can and cannot do, a lot of us are having to institute fees because there are the vendor suppliers, so to speak, are not providing payment to the travel advisors. And really, one of the things, and it's my philosophy, is that if there is a commission or payment from a supplier, that's a thank you to me for referring them that client. Yet I'm the one doing all the research. Travel advisors are the ones doing all the research. We're not just order takers. Right. Most of us are not. So it's incorporating, how to incorporate that into the story is where I'm having, not a problem, but just not knowing how to incorporate that, because for so long it's been, oh, well, y'all are just strictly commissioned, and that's not necessarily true anymore. Yeah. Especially since COVID, because it is changing drastically for us and for the suppliers as well, not just for the advisors. Well, so that's where some of the issues are.
That if I'm not answering your question, please make sure that I answer it. But okay. With as things I mean, things are always, I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of dramatic change in the last couple of months, but in reality, things are always changing, right? And so we need to be businesses that are always trying to figure out how are we different? What makes us different? And I think talking about websites and talking about how you present your offer, a lot of times people will say, well, this is the offer and these are the benefits of this. I mean, these are the offer and this is how it works. This is the payment breakdown. This is this blah, 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 whatever it is that you would usually put with that product or that service. When in reality, like when I go to a restaurant, I don't want to really read what the recipe is, right? I don't need to know all the features of it. I want to know the benefits of it. And so if you can clearly communicate to your clients, these are the benefits that you're getting from this, and people can see how, oh yeah, I mean, you can't really put a price tag on frustration with Orbitz, Expedia, or whatever, all the different, services out there. I mean, I've tried to rent places from Airbnb and VRBO and all these different places. So that they have made it a lot easier and probably a lot more difficult for you travel agents, because people think that they can get a good deal by doing their own research, right? But you have to somehow communicate those benefits that people are getting. Maybe it's peace of mind. Maybe it's travel insurance, right? That you're like, even if plans change or COVID, suddenly everything's back to phase 1, they're going to get a full refund, or whatever it is, like that you're putting these benefits and that when you talk to people, like they enjoy talking to you, right? They're enjoying their experience with you. And if you can find out ways even to like do something remarkable for I know that's, it's so overreaching and it's so easy to say, and it's a lot harder to do. But if you can find those little things that make it remarkable for somebody, then they're going to be like, you know what, maybe I am paying a little bit more, but look at all these benefits and I get to connect with her. And I love connecting with her, honestly. And it makes me feel so much more at peace that if plans change, I'm not going to lose my whole investment, which I'm not sure how these different websites are handling it. So I think to make it really clear of what your benefits are and how that's still adding value to people.
Yeah, it is like, we're the ones sitting on the phone with either an airline or a cruise line or a hotelier for 5, 6, 7 hours, just trying to get information. Because especially in the beginning, and even now we're still sitting on the phone for clients. And so it's relieving that stress off of the client.
And I think that's huge. And I think people do pay a premium for their time, right? People do pay a premium for less stress because we already have way too much of it. And so if you can present yourself like that and communicate in that way, I mean, those are 2 huge benefits right there that people can get just by using your service, right? And I'm sure there's plenty more.
Ramona, we see something similar. We do something called vendor management with Strix. So we're the ones that are going to sit on hold with Cox or Charter or whoever your ISP is, or the QuickBooks support or whoever it is. We're the ones that take the brunt of that. And I think that it's very similar. I really feel like for you guys right now, you have a unique opportunity to sell yourself, because there are a lot of people that scheduled travel during this time and they did it on their own, and they're the ones sitting on the phone waiting for a credit, waiting for a refund, whatever it may be. And if you can take that burden off, a lot of people, I think right now, are more than willing to pay some extra money so that I don't have to sit on the phone, like you said, for 7 hours waiting for a supplier, only to get disconnected at hour 7, and you got to start over, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Ramona, you're not selling vacations, right? You're selling peace of mind, right? You're selling, hey, even if plans change, you're going to get your money back, right? If you're selling like security, you're selling peace of mind, you're selling like stress relief, right? You're selling those things. So to frame it in that way, and not just like, or I mean, you can even call out like, are you frustrated because you've just lost, your deposit, on your last vacation or whatever it is. Like, I don't want you to overpromise something that you can't get back, but like,
Right.
if there's things that people will lose because they're going with these travel agency websites and doing it on their own, that you can prevent that from happening. Yeah, like David said, I think people are definitely looking to pay for that because we need a break from the madness, right? We need a break from,
Yeah.
and have that security that even if things change, that we're still going to be okay on the other side of it.
Yeah, and that knowledge base too. I know for like, talking about the guide, the guide to help the hero find it. For me, I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time searching what the guidelines are for this state or for this place, or if they're opening the doors to ours. So like, you can be that guide where, holy crap, I don't have to go and learn everything about COVID and traveling right now,
Yeah.
because Ramona knows it. She does it every day.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
talking to these people nonstop, and that's where I could see another big selling point would be, because for me, that there's so much knowledge out there. If I can just grab an expert like you, Ramona or Carlene, and say, this is what I want to do, and you just give me those 3 steps that I need to take to get there. Oh, it's worth every penny. It's worth every penny.
Okay.
Or you can continue taking Advil and sleeping pills at night, or you can keep on, lying to yourself and saying a staycation is good enough, so those are like the failure side of it. Like, people can do those things. People can continue to lose money trying to figure it out on themselves. People can get to that border of that state or that country and realize, oh, I can't go in, or I need to be quarantined for 14 days if I do. Like, you're helping them with that whole process, and they can succeed and they can have that restful break from reality that they've been looking for,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow, man. It's lots of great information here. I just, we're getting close to the 3 o'clock hour, so I kind of wanted to wrap and tie some things up. I know for me, I learned a whole bunch for so many years. Probably I was doing, I work on computers. Why am I not getting any questions? Why don't they want to know more? And then I had that same thought about, well, if I say computers, that means like all technology, right? So they might ask me, because I don't want to get too specific, because they might ask me about this. And then, so for me, I loved hearing that one, because for so long I was going about that. Yeah, I work in IT.
Yeah,
And then I would get silenced.
Pretty exciting.
we've got a comment here on Facebook from Tracy Adams. She's one of our longtime followers here, and thank you, Tracy, for being involved on Facebook. She said, I think shining a light on how it works and being transparent works for me. And so she's in the mortgage industry. She does home mortgages, and that is extremely confusing. And Ramona, Carlene, I think right now travel is extremely confusing as well. And so there's that benefit for us. Technology is confusing. For you, Will, marketing is confusing. So shining the light, letting people know, here's how you get. I love the steps that you talk about. Here's how you get to where you're trying to go, point A to point B. Here's how you get there. Here are the steps to take. Don't make it too confusing. We're going to help you along the way. And in the end, man, you're going to have this great vacation, or you're going to have a great mortgage, or you're going to have a great story brand, whatever it may be. That's very big. So thank you for that, Will.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Tracy. She's one of our all-stars. So yeah, we'll go ahead and kind of wrap it up a little bit. First of all, thank you everybody for joining and for being part of the discussion. We really have enjoyed doing this every week. We get to connect. We get to look at things from a different point of view. And so everybody coming in, even the Facebook Live messages, they help us to get a different perspective. But also we're all in this together, and I think, you know, being there for each other and helping each other out through all of this is just key. You know, we have a great network of people. If we can all come together, we're going to really triumph over the
Adversity.
adversities that
You
we
got
are
it.
we are facing right now.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. That's words. So next week we have a great topic for next week too. I'll let David go ahead and introduce what we're talking about next week.
Yeah, so next week we're going to be talking about business email compromise, and it's the cyber attack that uses your own email against you. So it is probably, ransomware has been the big cyber attack that's been in the media. Well, a lot of solutions have come out to help prevent ransomware. There's a lot of visibility into it, and so hey, the cyber criminals are changing their ways right now. And now they're looking at compromising your own email and stealing your money. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. That's the problem, right, Will?
Yeah.
And we're gonna help lay out how you protect yourself against that, so that you, in the end, are sitting peacefully, sleeping at night without sleeping pills, not worried about whether someone is stealing your business out from under you.
Man, he's tying it all together.
I was taking notes.
And then real quick before we head out, so, you know, Will, I'm a business owner. I'm sold. I want to get my story right. What's my next step for getting started with you and One Match Marketing?
Well, the one step that I have for all my clients is just a free 30-minute consultation. Actually, for you Zoom people, I'll put in my Calendly calendar in there. If anybody's watching on Facebook Live, you can just DM me on my Facebook page at onematchmarketing.com. Wait, that's my website, not .com, not for Facebook. But so One Match Marketing, the number one, is my company. And I'd love to have a talk with you. There's no strings, just like this talk. I'd love to be generous in the advice that I give. If you want to just talk about something specific, that's fine with me. And if you want to talk about how you can take those next steps in creating a story, so often it really is just having that person that you can bounce your ideas off of. Like, even for me, I get so stuck and so focused on something that it's hard to see the big picture. And so just having somebody walk you through that process and being able to ask the right questions so you can make sure that you're on the right track, and then have that clear, cohesive story for all your marketing is, I mean, that's a great foundation, and it's really going to help the rest of your marketing be effective. But that first step, that first step is just that 30-minute consultation, and there's no strings attached to it. I'd love to talk to you about marketing and see you get to the next level.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks everybody for joining this Chill with Jim episode, where it's always business up top and pajamas on the bottom. My name is Jim, and I work on computers. But yeah, seriously, you guys have been great, and thank you again. We hope to see everyone next week. We did drop some things in Facebook too there, so if you need to reach out to Will, feel free to do it. But thank you all for coming, and we appreciate all of your input.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, David.
Bye, everybody.
See you next week.